guys, welcome back to my channel, Mothering in Style. If you are new here, my name's Joa. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you very much for tuning in to another video. Today we are doing makeup. I'm going to be showing you all of the tips, tricks, hacks that I use every single time I do my makeup and show you how I created the look that I have done today. So just keep on watching and don't forget to subscribe. Okay, so I'm not going to show you every single step of my makeup routine. I'm just going to focus on the tips and tricks that I use every single time I do my makeup. So I've already primed my face. I use the Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enriched Face Base, and my first tip, trick, hack is to set your face with translucent powder. So after doing my primer, I will always go in with a translucent powder and just set that down. And particularly if you have oily skin, this is an absolute must. And I just find that this really helps my makeup last that bit longer and just helps against me getting really shiny. So the powder that I use is the Laura Mercier translucent powder in medium deep. And I just set that all over my face. And also, I've done my brows off camera, so I'm not going to do that now, or I've started my brows off camera. But I also set it in my eyebrows. My pet hate is shiny brows. And I just really hope we can leave shiny brows in 2021. So I always make sure that I set my brows before I start them. And that is my tip number one. Hack number two is to use liquid blush and apply it before the rest of your base. So my two favourite liquid blushes are Glossier Cloud Paint in the shade Dawn, and also I really like the Rare Beauty blush in the shade Love. Today I'm going to use Glossier, and I just use a really small amount of this because the colour payoff is a lot. So I use a really small amount on my finger like that. I apply it initially with my fingers, and then I blend it out with a brush. Okay, so that is my blush. So moving on to tip number three, and that is to let your concealer dry down before you blend it out. And I think this is a really common one that like everyone does now. But that is something that I do every single time, and it helps in terms of like using less product. So when you just let it dry down a bit, you get a lot more coverage out of it. So I just put my concealer here. I'm using the Too Faced Born This Way Multi-Sculpting Concealer in the shade Chestnut. And then I also use the Nars Radiant Creamy Concealer. I use this one for my brows. And I just put like a little bit here, like that. And then I'm gonna let this dry down before I blend it out. While my concealer's drying down, I'm also going to add my contour because the same way with my blush, I like to blend that out before my concealer and before adding my foundation. So I'm just going to add my contour and then I'm going to quickly blend this off camera. Okay, it's been about 2 or 3 minutes, so now I'm gonna blend out my concealer. Another kind of little tip that I did is just to add a bit of, you can either use a darker concealer, I just used a little bit of foundation in between these two dots because I just find it gives you a bit more of a seamless finish than just using the lighter shade. So obviously the concealer that I'm using is a couple of shades lighter than my skin, and then just having something my skin tone in between I find just gives me a more flawless finish. And I'm just going to blend that out with a damp sponge. That's my concealer now blended out after I let it dry down for a couple of minutes. And my next tip is to finish your brows after concealer. So I had done my brows off camera before I started the video using my Glossier Boy Brow in the shade Black. I always start off doing that and then I concealed them mainly just the bottom and a little bit of the tail, but then I always finish them after I've concealed them, and I just think this gives you a more natural, fluffy kind of look, because sometimes if you do your whole brow and then you conceal it, it can just look that little bit too perfect, which was a look that we were all loving 2 years ago, might I add. But now I think everyone's going for a bit of a more natural, fluffy brow. So to get that effect, I find that if I complete my brow after I've concealed it, it just looks that bit more natural and not as perfect. So I go back in with the Glossier Brow Flick, and this is also in the shade black, and this is where I really try, I don't know if you can see that, but this is where I really try to do some hair-like strokes to just add more texture to the brow and a bit more depth to it. I am someone who does not have a lot of brow hair at all, so I have to fill them in quite a lot, but obviously I don't want them to look really blocky. So I just try and add more hairline strokes. If I go a bit out of like my concealer line, I'm not so bothered because I want them to look a bit fluffy. And that's it. I don't know if you can tell the difference, but I can tell the difference. And that's just after I've filled them in just that little bit more. Okay, so I just finished doing my foundation. I used the combination of the Too Faced Born This Way in Spiced Rum and the Airbrush Flawless foundation from Charlotte Tilbury in the shade Warm Child, 15 Warm. I just find this a little bit too warm for me, so I feel like balancing it out with that really helps. So next I'm gonna set my concealer, and that is my next tip, trick, hack, and that is to use a damp sponge to set your under eyes or to set your concealer. That is something that I only learnt like 2 weeks ago, and I find this to be a game changer. And I just find that it really gives you a really smooth, flawless look. I don't go for a super bright under eye, so I use the same Laura Mercier medium deep powder that I used to set my face at the start, and I just dampen my sponge with MAC Fix Plus, and then I just apply that under my eyes, and I try and get right in the corner under here, and I kind of dab it in to the skin. Let me just add some more. Just making sure I get all the excess off so that I don't put a bit too much. And I just add that under my eyes. I do down my nose. And you know what? I didn't actually conceal my chin in the end, but I'm just gonna add some translucent powder there instead. Even though I haven't put any concealer there, I do down my nose, and I do a little bit of the center of my forehead. And then, because that medium deep powder isn't very bright, I also use the Laura Mercier translucent honey powder. I just don't feel comfortable with the super bright under eye. I just think on my skin tone and just how I like my makeup to look, it's just not for me. I know that's kind of the in thing, but it's just not really for me. But I find that if I layer these two, I get a kind of balance that I like. So I then go in with the honey, but I only use the honey under my eyes. I don't use it anywhere else on my face. And I don't use loads. It's looking like a lot on camera though, I'm not gonna lie. I don't bake, so I'm just gonna dust it straight off with a brush, because I don't really like how baking looks on me either. And when I dust it off, I feel like I do a combination between dusting it away and also kind of patting it in. So first I dust it off, and then I kind of pat, I guess, what's left on the brush and what's left on my skin, like right into my skin. And I find that really just helps to make sure that it's set. And then whatever's left on the brush, I just kind of dust over my eyes like that as well. And then that's me done. Let me come closer. I'm going to turn my light down a little bit just so that, like this, just so you can see that's kind of my true colour, I guess. Like that. Okay, so next, I think I might keep my light like that. I think it was maybe a bit too bright, sorry. Okay, so next I'm gonna bronze, which is my next tip. And that is to use the same bronzer shade as your eyeshadow, or use your eyeshadow. Use your bronzer as eyeshadow. I just find that using the same bronzer shade as your eyeshadow just really brings your face together in a really kind of like seamless finish. I don't really do very extravagant eyeshadow looks because I don't have the skills, to be honest. But I always use, even if I do, I don't know, like a more gold eye or something like that, I will always still use my bronzer in my crease, or I will use it somewhere because I just think it like marries the look together. So today I'm just gonna do kind of what my standard eyeshadow look is, which is just my bronzer. So I put it all over my eyelids. Come a little bit closer. Yeah, I put it all over my eyelid like so, up in my crease, and I kind of take it not all the way up to my brow, but a little bit above my crease, like that. And it just adds that little bit of warmth to my face. And I'm gonna do the same on this eye. And then I don't contour my nose. All I do is highlight it with concealer, as you saw me do earlier. So I don't know how I feel about contouring your nose, if I'm completely honest. I just kind of feel like, are we not past that now? I don't know, I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of a proper nose contour, but I do like to highlight it because I want to bring back the dimension into my face. But what I do with my bronzer is just kind of take it to this part of my nose at the top. Like, is this the bridge? At the top of the bridge of my nose. And I just bring it round from my eye. So from here, and I bring it round to here. And I don't go any lower than my eye with it. And again, it's just really about kind of adding that dimension back into my face. And that is it. Okay, so that's my eyes done. And before I apply the bronzer to the rest of my face, my next tip is to just go back in with the brushes that you used to do the rest of your face and just make sure that you're happy with like the blending situation. And I haven't added any more product, but I feel like I've lost a bit of my blush, so I'm just gonna go back in with my blusher brush and just kind of apply that. And then my contour here, I think has kind of been lost a bit by me doing my concealer. So I just go back in. Again, I haven't added any product to it, but I'm just going back in and kind of reapplying that and just re-blending it. And I'm gonna put a bit at the top of my head, like here, and then down like that. Because, you know, we've all been there when our makeup hasn't been blended well. Let's tell the truth. It's happened to all of us. We need to do everything we can to avoid it. So I just go back in with the same brushes, and then the last one that I do is my foundation brush, and I just really go in because I used minimal foundation because I did my blusher and everything else first. But I just go back in with the brush and just make sure that I'm happy that everything looks quite seamless. And I feel like I'm quite happy with that. I really hope that when I go back and look at the footage, it doesn't look a hot mess. But yeah, I'm happy with that. So now I'm gonna go in with my bronzer. And now I'm just going to show you my final tip hack, and that is to use your highlighter on more than just your cheeks. And I use the Fenty Beauty Matchstick in the shade Rum. Again, I love cream liquid products. I just think they just melt into your skin more. I just think they look more natural, and I really feel like they give you that glowy kind of look. So I've already done some highlighter on my cheeks, and I also highlight my nose, or just here on my nose. But I love an inner corner highlight. You've probably deduced that from my previous videos, because I always have an inner corner highlight. I feel like that is like a Jackie Aina thing that I've picked up of watching her videos for years. So I always use an inner corner highlight, and I just think it really just draws attention to your eyes. I have tiny little eyes that often, like in photos, it's like, are your eyes open? So I find adding an inner corner highlight just really draws attention to my eyes and makes them look that little bit bigger. Okay, I'm happy with that. And then the next place that I highlight is my Cupid's bow. So I do it here, like just round the top of my lips. So really around the Cupid's bow, I add it. And then I also, I don't feel like I saw this anywhere. I think I made this up. I also add some here, but I mainly do that after I've done my lips. So I'm gonna add a little bit for now, and then we're gonna return to that. And then finally, just my brow bone. I only add a little bit here, just a little bit, and blend that into where my bronzer is as well. And it's basically just all those kind of like, apart from my eyes, it's those high points of my face that the light is going to catch anyway. Again, I'm just going back in with my bronzer brush to just make sure that looks like it's blended seamlessly. Like that. And then I feel like that just looks really glowy. And I'm going to do my lips quickly. Okay, so I've done my lips, so now I'm just going to go back in with my final highlight. I'm actually happy with how my Cupid's bow highlight is looking. I don't really feel like I need much more. I'm going to add a teeny bit. But you see how it just frames your lips? I really like that. Anyway, the last one is I add a tiny bit here. And I try not to add too much because I don't want it to be too obvious. But again, I just think it helps to frame your lips. And I don't really need my lips to look any bigger than they actually are because I already have quite big lips. But I just think framing them in this way looks really flattering. So let me know what you think of that. Because I actually haven't seen anyone else do that, but I really like the way that that looks. So let me know what you think. Okay guys, I really hope that you enjoyed this video and that you learned something new today. Let me know what your hacks are down below. I'm always up for learning something new that is going to improve my overall makeup game. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up and let me know if you'd like to see more makeup content. I am not an expert and I'm not a makeup artist, but I'm just a girl who loves to look good. So if you would like to see more content like this, let me know down below and please do subscribe. I would love to see you in the next one. Bye!